This workshop is part of a series of mindscape activities that connects people to nature through art. Mindscape is a Wye Valley area of outstanding natural beauty and Artspace Cinderford project. It's part of the Foresters Forest, the National Lottery Heritage Fund and the Landscape Partnership Programme. Each of the YouTube clips is accompanied by a step-by-step activity guide that you can download from the Artspace Cinderford website. Hello and welcome to the Mindscape Activities Workshops. For this session we're going to make a sort of memory box or a curiosity box. Essentially some sort of compartmentalised structure where learners can place inside these different compartments objects, found objects from nature, maybe something they've discovered on a walk in a favourite beauty spot, maybe something from the garden where they live. Possibly they could be more personalised objects, things like old photographs or written notes, that sort of thing. It's possibly a two-stage activity, the making of the box, the construction of it, and also then the decorating, the arranging. It is possible to do it within one session, but you may wish to split them up into two different events. The idea is you're able to display these lovely objects and appreciate all their individual sculptural forms, their individual colours and textures. And every person will have a different set, a different variety of objects depending on wherever they're living, wherever their little walk has been or what they have at home. The materials we're going to use for this session include the found objects. I'll talk about those in a second. Really it's these offcuts of wood. I've got here some old bits of dowling, and these are just from old picture frames, but they're relatively inexpensive. They are slightly different sizes, but they are offcuts. And I've also got some plywood that's been cut up into random sort of squares. That's going to be our back panel. Could be that you use an old picture frame backing, something like that. So the activity needs a little bit of thinking about, a little bit of preparation beforehand. You don't have to have exact measurements, any offcuts will do. It's this stage, the cutting of the wooden dowling, that you will have to measure and make fit into these background panels. I'm going to use, to attach this bit of dowling, a combination of both panel pins. I'm going to use a glue gun. I think in the Mindscape instructions we're suggesting a glue gun, but you delivered this workshop several times to different types of clients, and some people really enjoy using a hammer, some people enjoy using a saw to cut the wood. Again, you need to assess that person. Is it sort of appropriate for them to be using it? I know some people really enjoy, again, feeling empowered of using those tools. Again, I've got a bit of sandpaper just to rub down any rough bits of wood, obviously a hammer, and a saw. I must admit this is a rather oversized saw, but as we're in the middle of the COVID-19 lockdown, it's the only thing I've got, but a bit of an overkill for these. And I've also got a little pot of watered down tea, just to act as a stain, because I think it might make that wood look quite attractive. So we'll break it down into two sections, the making of it, and then we'll look at the decorating, the placement of the objects. Whilst I'm talking about those, this is my collection. These are things that I've found in the forest. Usual things, we've got things like the pine cones, a lovely bit of sort of broken china that I found near the ruins of an old cottage, a sycamore seed, feathers. In here there's a tiny little bird's skull, which is an exquisite little form, some moss, etc, etc. Oh, a lovely fossil that I found of a fern leaf. So the idea is we can place these into our box in what we feel is an attractive aesthetic composition. And you may wish to test that out first. I'm not suggesting that I'm going to get this right first time. I think it's a case of, although that looks okay, it's a case of playing around with these and moving them around. When you get to the making stage, one could argue that it might be a good idea to work out where you're going to place the objects and cut the dowling accordingly. Personally, I found for the type of learner that this was directed for, that gets a little bit complicated. I think, as I'll show you in a second, just making these randomly and seeing what. So, how do we go about making the box? Take the back panel. I have pre-cut some of the wood, obviously, just to make this video a little quicker, but there are no fancy joints in this at all. No dovetail joints or whatever. These are all butt joints, just really crude, butting the pieces of wood next to each other. I'm going to use a combination of panel pins that I'll hammer through and the glue gun. For the outside, the frame if you like, I'll use the hammer, and for the internal sections I'll use the glue gun. Right, so what I've done is just measure, as I say, the length from two sides of this particular piece of wood, and then quite simply let's go, placed another piece of wood and would have marked off the gap, the length inside, and cut those accordingly so they fit in to those shapes. That would be those pieces. So I'll use the panel pins at this stage. I've had learners love doing this bit, and of course some people don't feel so confident. So as ever, it's a case of assessing your learner and is it right for them. The whole idea of this is to enjoy it and have fun. So you don't want it to be too technical, otherwise I think it'll take the enjoyment away. Okay, so hopefully, and probably not perfectly, those end pieces should fit in to that little gap. Okay. And we'll hammer those in place. On the inside, again, I've pre-cut something to fit inside. This is where you're going to have fun playing around with different compositions, different proportions. And I know that fits in here, so which other offcuts could I use in conjunction with it? So you can play around with all these sort of different shapes and sizes. Yes, you could think about the objects that you've got at this stage, that might be easy, but whatever's best for the learner, let's not overcomplicate it. It might be that I need to make a new cut, for example here. Shall I go for that? Just going to mark it. I'll cut it with my oversized saw. Okay. So I'm fairly happy with that. We're going to get a few objects in there. So I think I'll use the glue gun at this stage. Again, these will obviously helps if the glue gun hasn't fallen out. It may be that some learners require a little bit more help than others. Okay, that's now going there. As obviously this glue gun is a very hot tip. And I'm more than aware that there's a slight gap there, but I'm not going to let that worry me too much, as I don't think that's a big issue. Okay, so there's our box. I like the idea of staining this with a bit of tea just to warm up the colours of the wood slightly. So I'm going to wait a few minutes, and then I'm going to take this sort of stain, this jug of tea. I'm going to paint it over there and then soak into the wood.
So I'll get back to you when I've done that bit.
So I let the glue dry, and then I stained it with the tea. I've also, just on 3 of these compartments, added in a little wash of paint. This is an old tester pot, an old sort of interior emulsion tester pot cream, and these 2 were little stains of acrylic, a black and a dark brown. And it just sort of gives it a little bit more added visual interest. So you may wish to do the same. Here's the fun bit then, where we start selecting our objects and working out what's looking best where, even which way up does this go. Let's have a look. I rather like that, which fits in there. So this could take quite some time, or you may find something that that works fairly quickly. So have a play around with different combinations of layout, and that looks quite nice, and what you think looks good. Yeah, that fits. I could cram lots and lots of different things into here, or keep it simple. I guess it's personal preference. Maybe that goes there. How about that? So at this stage, I could glue these into place, albeit quite quickly. I seem to have found a composition and an arrangement that looks okay. I am actually fairly happy with that. So if I wanted to, I could take the glue gun again and just carefully pop a spot of glue on the back to stick our objects in. Okay. Here's my contact points. This will probably need a little bit more. My found object, memory box or curiosity box. Fairly quick and easy way of making the compartments, and I've had fun placing the objects in. I could attach a couple of eyelet screws into the back here and hang it onto a wall, maybe on a shelf. So have a go yourself, see what combinations of interesting objects you can find and display.